Here we are after the marathon kilt making session. The Stewart of Appin kilt is now done. I got up early this morning. And, none of my days has been as long as that first 12 or 13 hour day. I did barely 10 hours today. Got up, put in the very heavy buttonhole bar tack. And this time I used, instead of the heavy black buttonhole twist, I used just ordinary silk thread, but I doubled it up. And unfortunately, the color of the silk thread on the spool was closer to that. This rather stands out a bit, but I hope the customer likes it. And then green down below to match that. And I've put in the beautiful recreation buckles of the First World War era buckles that I had specially commissioned to have made. Beautiful things. And you can see that the tab is basically the same as the others. The tab doesn't fit in as well, camouflage as well against the tartan, because I had so very little bit of cloth left and nothing had this block of colors. I had to use a piece that was like here. I didn't have this, so hence that's why it looks a little different. So I got the buttonhole done. I got the buckles on. I did the straps in the way that I've already explained. This has become a bit of a signature of mine, almost like Lee jeans with their orange thread. My using white linen thread to sew the inside. Well, they're both sewn, but you just can't see it in here because it's concealed. But the strap's sewn on with heavy white linen thread. The reason why is I really distrust synthetic threads when I'm sewing leather, because this is going to be under tension all the time, and I have this fear that a synthetic thread would cut the leather over time as it works. So I'm not going to chance it. It's hard to find linen in colors because linen doesn't take dye very well. But the important thing to me is that it's the right gauge, the right thickness, and the right material. So I bought this linen thread from a supplier of bookbinding supplies for sewing books together. So obviously they don't care about the color. I'm extremely happy about how that radius of those pleats turned out, because as you remember, I had talked about, I'd explained the reason why I'd sort of divided the pleats and alternated the pleats so that it would be a shallow overlap, and it worked. We don't have any sort of sawtooth pattern there. I'm extremely happy about that, and I can't wait to see how this looks on the individual, because I think it's going to look very well indeed. So that's done on the outside. I've sewn in the lining, and then I've gone over it with very carefully, look for the least bit of error, a little thread poking out, or a stitch that, if I got moment inattention and you get you miss a stitch, and you get, because I'm sewing 8 to 10 stitches per inch. If I mess that up, I want to go back and sew over it again so that it's right. So I gave it a very, very careful look and inspection. The last thing I do, which is, it's a bit of a ritual with me, when everything else is done, I tease out the yarns on the edge. And as you can see, I followed Hector Russell's example of having 3 layers there for a little more richness. And when this kilt's been wet in the rain a few times, this will sort of puff up and unravel. It'll look even nicer. And then my final seal of approval, on goes the label on the inside apron. In glace gente me, gray hair John made me, and the rest of the information. So there we are. I'm going to roll this up. I'm going to, not tonight, but I'm going to roll it up because it's almost 7 o'clock. Started at 7 this morning. How about that? I'm going to roll this up, put it to one side. Tomorrow I will weigh it and calculate the shipping, and then send the final invoice to the client. Have a good night. Wash your hands. Stay safe. Be nice to each other.